Hello, everyone, and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann, but you can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q.
Now, Q, you've had a quite momentous week this last week. It's a big life-changing event.
Oh, just so tired here, H. Oh, I can barely stand. Oh, my God. My boyhood dream of going to E3 came true, and I'm exhausted.
That is absolutely the most important thing that happened to you last week. So, no, tell me about E3. Like, this is really...
Oh, okay. We can continue to bury the lead here. Yes, last week I went to E3, and it was my first time ever going to E3, and I was in the special opportunity of being able to be there with IGN, as opposed to just being one of the, I think we called them filthy blue badgers. These are the public people who paid for their ticket to get to E3. Yeah, it was amazing. It was super exhausting at the same time. I was working the booth a lot, doing graphics for our stage show, but it was a ton of fun. I didn't get to play many games. I got to see a bunch of stuff, and it was very weird kind of being at E3 and being away from the reactions of my typical social circle because I was so busy with everything else. So I normally I think I would be texting you or Sandy and Yana, just people going, hey, like, what do you think about this announcement and that? And here I was just like filling in graphics very quickly to prepare them for the next day. But I think the thing you were talking about is, and this is literally the story, I got off the plane from E3 and I was traveling at E3 with an engagement ring on me.
Because you never know who you're going to run into.
You never know. If I saw Reggie, I was going to pull the trigger. So I was planning on proposing. There's actually another podcast I listen to that I love called My Brother and Me. And they were doing a live show in San Francisco. So I was going to do this big to-do and propose at this live show. But it didn't.
Which one of the McElroy brothers would you have been proposing to?
I was going to be proposing to my girlfriend, Jessica. But it would be Griffin if I had to pick one, of course. Maybe Justin. Or Griffin.
I see. It's tough because Justin and Travis sound so much alike that you'd hate to have one of those... mix-ups.
One of those mix-ups. Luckily, you can really easily tell in person which one is which.
Yes.
So they have a moment in intermission where they're like, okay, go ahead, write in your question and we'll read it. And so I put in this question. I'm like, hey, when's I'm moving. When should I propose to my girlfriend? Just like I forget the exact wording, but it was a setup to basically for them to go, now, you should propose now. They did not read my question and my heart sunk. And so I was like, okay, it's not happening here in this big dramatic fashion. Then after the show was out, we were very close to Yerba Buena, which is a beautiful sort of gardens area in San Francisco. And I said, hey, Jess, do you want to go get dinner over at Yerba Buena? That could be nice. And she thought about it for a second. She was like, I'm not hungry. So, okay, plan A, plan B, that's all out the window. But I knew I wanted to, before I got back into my apartment and back home, really, for the first time after E3, I wanted to do it. So we went to this little, and I know we have to start the show, so I'll keep it brief, but we went to this other place.
Yeah, really speed through this,
Yeah. We went to a place called Murphy Street, which is in downtown Sunnyvale. It's very cute during the day. It has a farmer's market, and when we got there, it was filled with drunkards singing karaoke very loudly and a person asleep on a bench. So I said, okay, it's not happening here. Mind you, the whole car ride home, which was about an hour, I'm just sitting in silence with cold, clammy hands. I'm totally in my own head. And she even asked me, she's like, are you mad? I felt bad.
I mean, yes, you would have been mad at that point. I would have been at least.
Well, I was more panicky, I think, than mad. And then finally, we got back home and it was quiet. It was about 10:45 at night.
You were the only drunkard that was doing karaoke at that point, so it's acceptable.
That's right. And I kind of took out my phone. I said, hey, here's the question I was going to give the McElroys. And this was right in front of our apartment. And as she was reading it, I took out the ring and got down on one knee and asked the question. And actually, I was so nervous, I started crying a little bit. not like a loud sob, just, a single tear. I was like, oh my God, I knew she was going to say yes. She did say yes, but I was just so damn nervous and inside my own head and excited to get to do it. And so, yeah, I'm an engaged man. Holy cow.
That's wonderful. That's really great.
Thank you very much.
Way to go.
It happened on your watch, so somehow you got to play a part.
That's exciting. Well, congratulations, and I'm sure that all of our listeners are happy to hear that as well.
I promise I will do over the next season 2, year 2 of Playwright as few wedding-based pitches as possible. I will not.
I don't feel like there's enough wedding-based games, so maybe this is an opportunity to explore.
That's true.
Although we'll know that when we start getting an influx of baby-related games, that I don't know, some shit's going down.
That's right. Yeah. So I will keep it to a minimum, but I can't promise anything.
All right. Well, I guess while you're storytelling, why don't you give us a video game pitch for today?
Okay. So my pitch this week is a little bit inspired by some Netflix binging. I want to pitch to you a Queer Eye video game. Think of this as a game that is almost like a strategy / simulator that would take place before the dating simulator. So you would have people who, and this could all happen kind of 2D, maybe anime style, sort of dumpy normal guys all have applications that they send in or their partners send in, and you, the Queer Eye crew, have to select which guy you're going to transform their life, and you go through the rounds of taking them shopping, teaching them how to cook, giving them a haircut, and all the while you're kind of paying attention to the feedback they're giving you and trying to make sure that you end up with something that both is going to be fashion forward and exciting for everyone else, but also something that they like and feel comfortable in. And maybe you end up even giving them some relationship advice along the way. So it's weird. There's probably a lot of ways we can take it, but that is the pitch.
All right, starting the clock. So you introduce this as a strategy game. When I hear that, I think about like
troop movement,
Final Fantasy Tactics, or Fire Emblem, or something where it's a very, I'd imagine a time management would be an appropriate thing to add into this strategy wise. But like, what are you thinking when it comes to strategy? What makes you attach that word to it?
Well, I think that it would. I'm almost trying to think of the strategy as, let's say that there's different modes. And I planned in my head maybe that the shopping aspect would be most like a strategy game where you're trying to sort of keep the person from wandering off and get them to the aisles that you need them to. It almost sounds like tower defense at that point, trying to get them to have the correct flow through the store. But really the strategy layer to me was in kind of looking at the application, looking at not only what the person who needs help wants, but what their significant other wants, or maybe what their community is telling them that they need, and you're trying to match those expectations. So I guess maybe more of a feeling like a conversation / dating sim than a strategy game, but maybe we can add some strategy stuff to it. Like what could we do there? So
you can, I guess you can get into the aspects of resource management. Maybe you have to like make all of these fashion things. This gets really close to one of our earlier pitches in which we did a VR like fashion simulator, kind of like a what is that, Nintendo 3DS series of games. It's Style Savvy. That's the one.
Style Savvy.
Yeah, where we pitched basically a VR version of that where you're making dresses and you're cutting hair and you're I don't know, shaving were necessary. I'm not really sure what would all go into a fashion video game, but I guess let's really lean into the strategy side of things and see if we can make an interesting Fire Emblem Tactics style game out of basically preparing someone for social acceptability.
What if there could be a sort of tactics layer that is maybe heading off or defeating somebody's bad habits or their vices that are maybe anthropomorphized in some way on the battlefield. And so like every time that your makeover person is having this moment of self-doubt or they're slipping back into a bad habit, you kind of go into that battle mode and you're literally trying to fight off the demons.
Okay, so there's like an aspect of persona in this. It's almost like an escort quest where you want someone to get from one end of the battlefield, so to speak, to the other, which would be like a hair salon or something like that, and maybe be trying to like distract them from all of the like alcohol adverts or the, I don't know, attractive women walking the other way or something. I'm not really sure what this would entail.
Sure. Yeah, that could be interesting. And one of the things that I was thinking back on your sort of makeover game, and thinking about how this maybe feels in a way like an expansion to it or something. But one of the things I don't feel like has been captured, or I would add on to that, is Queer Eye also has an aspect to it that is redoing the person's house. And I know that there's a popular game that's been circulating around where you it's like house flipping simulator or something like that. I forget the name of it, but this is gaining traction and popularity on Steam, where you're kind of going around a house and doing demo, and literally trying to improve it so that you can sell it back on the market, which I think would also work well in VR. But maybe because the Queer Eye show does deal in also the house makeover plus the person makeover, I'm thinking that some of it is time management, right? Like, say you have 3 days to like, okay, fix this person's house. And let's say the house can make very slow progress without you, but you can kind of take control of the person doing house demo and get things done much faster. And you're constantly swapping between each character and trying to get the tasks done all against the clock by some deadline for these people.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's like Persona, again, in a way, where you have only a certain number of days and you can only hang out with like 1 or 2 people per day. And so you really have to prioritize where you spend your time and what you do with it.
You know what's funny about that is that there's a couple Persona references in here. And in my head, I don't like those Persona games, but maybe I do based on what you're saying here.
Have you ever played a Persona before?
I played Persona 4 Golden for like a few hours, and I thought the combat was cool, but I'm kind of bad at like the JRPG conversation, relationship mechanic stuff.
Wow, you like the combat and you don't like the JRPG stuff. That's like the opposite of Persona
Everyone
fans
else,
who just kind of like tolerate the combat,
right?
But really like the relationship building stuff. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not for you. There could also be like an aspect of Darkest Dungeon where you're preparing a series of characters to encounter these challenges. And it's almost like a little bit of a gamble. Like you spend a certain amount of money, like equipping them with things beforehand in hopes that what they're going to encounter is, you know, this is going to be something that counteracts the negative effects of what they encounter. So I don't know if there's an aspect of maybe finding a more powerful scarf to be more attractive or something, or I'm not really sure.
Well, I think what's interesting is when I don't know, have you seen this new Queer Eye show that Netflix is rebooted? No. I think you would like it. I think it's a very likable show. They have it split amongst 5 members of the cast. One does kind of teaching the person how to cook and getting them to explore food. One does clothing. One does the house over. Another one does the sort of hair care, is very specific, and male grooming. And then the last one, which I think could be the most ripe for adding, imagine each of these are different sort of mini games that you could play. The the last one, Karamo, I think his name is the confidence guy. And that is so, I don't think they gave him a very good concrete job on the show, but it's so unquantifiable. I think that's the place where you could do like an abstract interpretation. So I think that there's something there that could be your strategy game. And then the house guy could feel like the home flipper. The grooming could have that sort of, we bring in our VR hair tech from your game and repurpose it here. And then the food guy could be maybe that's a shopping thing, or that's a little cooking simulator. Maybe even if it's just a swipeable sort of quick game like that Sushi Striker, which is very good, by the way, on Nintendo Switch.
So you have these 5 different tasks that you have to manage all at once. It's interesting, but I feel like the weakness is that if you have 5 characters and 5 tasks that need to be done, then you just assign 1 character per task in each turn. It doesn't feel like you're making any sacrifices to get what you need to get done. So I want some choices that you have to make, some things you have to choose between, like a synergy or an anti-synergy, where making a choice with one person maybe prevents you from doing a necessary step with another person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really good. So maybe if you, I don't know, if you take them shopping and they're like, well, I like pastas or something, then they're going to put on weight and they're not going to fit into the clothes guy's clothes. Is that sort of the interplay that you're thinking about there?
Well, the thing is, okay, so let's say you have a clothes guy and you have a food guy. If your food guy's goal is to make the person eat healthier, which would actually make the clothes guy's job easier. I think it would be more interesting if doing well on any one of these things makes the other ones harder. So you're always kind of doing like a balancing act, or maybe fully, but making healthy choices usually enables other healthy choices to be made. So I don't really know how the metaphor would work in this situation.
Well, when I went back to if I go back to the idea of time management, let's say that for whatever reason, the person that you're working with, the applicant, can very quickly exist in any one of the places that you need to at a time. And, you can only shop for so long. You can only reconstruct the house for so long. You can only groom for so long. And there's never enough time to like fully do everything to 100%. Maybe you're only able to get, 1 or 2 of these things really on, and then the rest are all compromises. And the end result is graded, against the little reveal moment with the audience and the tour of the house and the whole thing. So what you end up with is always this kind of imperfect solution. And it's just a matter of like how you choose to spend your resources and your time. Maybe there's a budget associated with this stuff too. And each person is just improved only to the degree that you're able to manage those resources.
Okay, so I see. It's like a resource management game. That's interesting. I think there's definitely ways that can be expanded upon, but we are out of time right now, so we have to come up with a name.
Well, the easy thing would be Queer Eye the Game, but maybe there's a more fun pun that we can do there.
I feel like there are puns waiting for us here.
Yeah. Could you do LGBT cute?
Cute at the end? Is that the...
Yeah, that's very dumb. What? Oh, ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Man-made.
All right. Yeah, that's good. Man-made.
We did it.
What do we have next? My pitch. Today, I'm going to pitch a very simple idea. This is chess, but with dynamic or uneven battlefields. And so this is something like many of the ideas that we've done before. I'm not drawing from an entirely new well here, but
it's year 2, folks. Buckle up. We're gonna have some of the old ideas.
Yeah, so it's basically like a naturalistic battlefield, but every character kind of obeys chess rules. And so whether it's like a Fire Emblem type thing or whatever, it is every character kind of does the regular chess movements. So let's see how we make that interesting. Start the clock.
Well, I think because thankfully you pitched something that is way more rooted in what feels like a video game to me than my weird thing. There's a lot we can do with this. I love the idea of controlling troops that are pawns and knights and stuff and having them move through something that feels like a map with topography and water and not resources, but sort of natural barriers, and potentially to be playing almost a Civ-like game of taking points or defending things.
Mm-hmm.
I assume maybe that you're thinking that you can move backwards or forwards. There's kind of no penalty for that, or can pawns still only march forward here?
I don't know, because there are most of the pieces on a chessboard can move backwards. So if it's only like the infantry that has that restriction, then maybe that doesn't need to be abolished necessarily.
Yeah, I even like the idea of bringing in some MOBA aspects to this and having your pawns almost be creeps. That there's just kind of waves of them
that creeps.
To be creeps.
Hey, baby.
hey, I love this little pond you got going over here. Yeah, I mean, they're reasonably expendable, right? Maybe they're just always pushing forward. But you kind of from your base or your camp could be spawning new rows of them to come out every once in a while. And then you always have this sort of small, could be useful, could be expendable resource that you're managing.
The only thing that would really make this interesting and identifiable as chess is the knight pieces, because they have such a weird movement pattern. I feel like the rooks or even the bishops, they have such like a natural way of moving. I mean, it's restricted still, but it's not something that you wouldn't see in a regular game. Like,
sure,
how do we really leverage this and make this like different than other strategy games?
Well, one of the things I think that would make it different, and this is pulling it straight from chess, is literally the idea of knocking, everybody's kind of a one-hit kill still.
Yeah.
If the second that you introduce that and you show people occupying spaces and being kicked out of those spaces with maybe some mechanic that isn't tied to reaching the other side of the board that would cause resurrection, maybe it's defeating enough of those endlessly spawning pawns, and then you kind of build up points to execute abilities. That would be kind of player controlled rather than any particular chess piece, or you can spend those points on bringing a piece back from the dead. And so now you have something that feels very much like chess, but you can get yourself into kind of a mess and rescue yourself from it.
Then, of course, as you have barriers, maybe the bridge is in the wrong spot, so a bishop can't cross it, or something like that, where you really have to think on your feet to get your troops to where you need them to be.
Right, depending on the topography, something where a unit that would normally be flexible like a rook is, it's a death trap because there's just enough of those diagonal angles to mess it up. Let's say that the map has some natural topography, but along with that topography, you almost get tiles that still feel like they're of one sort of color or another, and that restricts your character to those colors. So you might find different parts of the map that are advantageous to one color versus another color based on what the movement looks like there. It kind of opens up some level of expression that would still, when you see it immediately, still read as chess.
You have this big natural world that you move throughout with these chess moves, but then the bonus stages could be more abstract, almost like MC Escher spaces, where they kind of like fold into themselves. So then you really have to play like 4-dimensional chess. Like you really have to think about these kind of impossible loops that the characters can make and, watch behind you as much as in front of you. That would be kind of an interesting twist as well. These abstract 3D weird chess boards.
Yeah, and I don't know why when I think about this map and I start thinking about Civ 5 and 6, I start thinking about hexagonal pieces, and it makes me go, what would chess look or feel like if you started doing hexagons? I don't even know if that's a thing, but maybe this game could figure out how to incorporate that in some way.
That'd be interesting. You'd really have to like rethink the moves that the pawn could make.
Right. Suddenly, its range of expression is pretty powerful, right?
Yeah. That could be really interesting.
Trapping a king would be tougher.
Maybe you just have a basic chess game with basic chess rules, but it sets up all these scenarios like, a board with obstacles, like we talked about in the beginning, like an MC Escher board, like a hexagonal board, but you still have to play with the regular chess rules. And so it's basically like getting thrown into a weird scenario and having to think on your feet and figure out how to win a chess game against these strange odds.
Yeah, I love the idea of spawning in kind of that 3D chess, because, chess is often expressed as a 2D thing. It is kind of a 2D game. Video game space lets us do weird stuff. So maybe you could have imagine a chessboard that had a reverse side that you could kind of march your way onto the back of. And in every level, you have what does a chess game feel like if you wrap the whole thing into an almost cylindrical shape? Even
like
if it's
those Mario Galaxy levels.
Yeah, like even if it's a standard game of chess, just by nature of perspective and warping, it actually makes it a lot harder to read. It's almost like teaching you how to read different polygons and geometries as much as it is the game of chess.
And you've seen, there's been a few games that have experimented with spaces that are more than 3 dimensions, and they often look really weird. Like you're standing in one space and basically you can kind of like drag 2 realities into that space and kind of use the shifting of dimensions to transport yourself somewhere else, kind of. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but there's been a few games, and I wish I could come prepared with their names, but a few games that have done that. And so, yeah, I don't know. That seems a little bit too abstract to make a chess game out of. I would like if you can really see everything, even if it takes some swiveling of the camera, be able to see everything. And anyone who can play chess can figure this out. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of places you can go with this.
Yeah, especially if you took the standard chessboard, you add in some of that strangeness of the topography. Maybe you make it even a little bit larger than a standard chessboard. And then you even did something really simple, like any square that somebody is defeated on, like drops out of space.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden that isn't available anymore. And the game is like totally, the whole flow of how you think about the battlefield totally changes. So you start with a larger than life chessboard. You're like, oh, there's too many spaces here. And then you like take away things slowly over time. That could be interesting as well.
Maybe you want some of your pawns to get killed because that'll create like a barricade to protect the king.
Sure, right. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
And of course you could do games that are more than 2 players at a time. You can have 3 or 4 players all on the same battlefield, all with their chess moves and chess pieces trying to get to one another.
And I like the idea of bringing in, the option to have a mode that is that speed chess mode where everybody is kind of like slapping the timer after they make their move. And the idea is to play it as fast as possible.
That's all the time that we have for that one. Let's come up with a name. I'll propose Chess Quest, like the famous Doom clone that I grew up playing.
Beautiful. I can't wait to go on this quest.
All right, there we go. Chess Quest. Anyways, we're coming back with a submission from the listeners. This comes from Spencer. Not a huge fan of the descriptor sauntering, but that doesn't actually know if he has a say in picking his nickname, Saunders. That's fair. If he doesn't like it, there's no need to burden him with it.
What if I flip it? Okay, I'm going to hear it. This is for you, Spencer, but please know everyone that gets a nickname, we're not going to keep redoing your nickname. I will pull back into my youth, into something that I think, a word we're all fond of, Super Spencer Saunders.
Now, of course, Spencer is famous for sending us pictures, so maybe the name Spencer's Gifts would be appropriate.
Love it.
Anyways, whatever your name is, Spencer Saunders, he writes in, I just watched Moana last night, so most of this pitch was inspired by that. I'll keep this short. A Souls-like set in a Mad Max-style world, but on boats. Also, there should be musical numbers, but they aren't a part of the gameplay, so no, this can't be a rhythm game, except maybe during boss battles. That could be cool. And we'll start the clock. This is a really good idea. Like, why hasn't this... I mean, this is kind of Sea of Thieves in a way, right?
Sure, a little bit. It's also a little bit Skull and Bones, right? That Ubisoft
because that's
is doing.
A little bit Sea of Thieves. Yeah, no, this is cool though. So let's think about, Sea of Thieves is very much about like sailing around with a crew of, I don't know, like 4 other people or something, and all manning this giant ship. What if this was like a Wind Waker style, you have a one-man boat, manageable by one person. This is a single player adventure. And basically you're just like not a pirate. You're not like roaming the seas, but you are performing pirate-like actions. You are attacking other ships. You are taking things that don't belong to you. I guess you're a pirate, but you're a very modest pirate with just a little tiny boat and just hauling out to get treasure. Yeah, this Mad Max comparison is really good. The desert is a hostile place, and so is the ocean.
I think what Spencer's tapping into here is something hasn't been considered, which is all the pirate games that are out right now or coming out are about and even Sid Meier's Pirates are about the fantasy of how wonderful it is to be a pirate, right? And there's no, like, Dark Souls has so many concepts like disease and discovering random player, almost literally messages in a bottle, and ending up in very kind of unfriendly, hostile places that I think would actually probably be more authentic to what it's like to be a pirate. Yeah, I think that this is cool, and I would love the idea if the boat felt less like Wind Waker to me in my head, and it almost feels like the one-man Sea of Thieves boat where when you do, undergo an attack or you take somebody out, that you're actually you have to invest a ton of time / infrastructure to maintain the boat. It's almost like the boat is your character in that sense and needs to be healed, or like you won't be able to get the boat back again and you have to go figure out how to steal another boat or something.
I do want to caution us. Are we getting close to just making Waterworld? Is that movie?
I mean, if we are, congratulations to us, because Waterworld is fantastic.
Are you sure about that? It's pretty well remembered as being one of the like worst movies ever made.
I mean, in my heart, Waterworld forever.
That's okay.
We can, as long as in the character creator I can put on webbed feet, then yes, this can be a Waterworld game.
So the thing about Mad Max that makes it work as an open world game is that if you are, if your car gets blown to bits, or if you just need to do a little bit of scouting about, then you can get out of the car and walk around, and that works. In the water, it doesn't really work the same way. You can swim to an extent, and maybe that's interesting. Maybe most of the exploring takes place underwater, so maybe this is fine. But to me, it feels like the water is something that really like slows you down and prevents you from doing that on foot exploration. But maybe that's okay, that you have a vehicle and you are dependent on that vehicle because it's kind of your home base. You take it around, you get in fights with other vehicles, and then when they lose, they sink. And so it's you have to dive underwater and collect what you can from them from underwater. So yeah, maybe that actually works out.
And then there's a bunch of creatures and stuff that are obviously threatening, even on the journey to retrieve stuff. I feel like up until this point, maybe this has just been me, kind of assuming in our heads we all have, because of the, just fiction and because of the games that are out right now, we have these wooden ships in our mind. If this is truly Mad Max, I love the idea of these ships feeling like patchwork aluminums and metals and being really, rusted and nasty looking. And for these things to almost feel like, in the post-apocalypse, it was a desert. In the post-apocalypse, Ice Age took over and then everything melted and everything was ocean. And so everyone had these like war boats essentially that they were on. Doing that, I think, could give you a lot of options in terms of the weird post-futurism weaponry and stuff that you could attach to this boat and have at your disposal potentially.
I guess you could salvage like weapons and armor from other boats and then find, safe places where you can attach them to your own boat, whether they're like a jet ski, something light and nimble, or whether it's something a little bit more heavy duty, like a motorboat with guns and harpoons. Yeah, I guess nautical themed weapons would be more fun, a fun way to take this.
Yes, and now we're getting closer to Waterworld, which is fantastic. Yeah, and
there would be a lot of piss drinking, naturally.
Yes. Right. Well, I mean, that's the other thing that I think is cool is, I don't know, what is Souls has some aspect of like managing your humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this game could, like, in that is almost like fresh water is that management, because you're potentially not going to have access to a lot of it. So your times when you're shoring up on land is probably to go find stuff to stay alive if there's kind of survival aspects to all of this. Essentially, like, land is so much more dangerous. Maybe that's where
exactly.
And the major islands are where all the bosses live, and then you're hunting them down on each of these islands as well as like progressing through the open water.
Yeah, because if you think like the whole world floods, then the rare spaces that are, still land, everything is competing for that space. So it's really only the strongest animals or creatures or whatever that are going to survive there. So obviously they're going to be the biggest threat to you when you land.
Yeah, and this is a great excuse for us to do and take I say us, to take the Soulsian design or even the Bloodbornian design of bosses and apply it to sort of mutated sea creatures. Like, talk about From Software being able to design a Kraken. That would be really cool. Or From Software doing some sort of land shark crocodile thing. All of that would be really neat.
Or even like any type of creature, like a
giant enemy crab.
Yeah, sure. Or one of those like giant sloths that you see in museums.
Yeah, I think that there's just a big palette to paint with here. So this is a cool. My mind's just dancing with ideas. What else can we do?
Let's think about the undersea exploration. I don't want it to be quite as in depth as something like what is that, Subnautica? Is that the game that you really like?
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like the undersea space is the main attraction, and you can eventually get to the point where you spend like all of your time underwater. And I still want underwater to be kind of like a scary place to go and a place that you don't want to spend more time than you have to.
Yeah, I think maybe you limit the range of expression underwater. So maybe it's swimming, it's, oxygen or oxygen management, and then of course your harpoon. Something very simple. Mm-hmm. And the harpoon could either be used to, maybe depending on what you load on it, you could use it to maybe defeat one or two, small to medium-ish creatures, or potentially if there's a sort of a harpoon with some sort of string or wire attachment, and you could use it to cover a large distance in the water by like attaching yourself to the fin of a larger creature. That could be very interesting.
A harpoon really is a really cool weapon for a Souls type game, because you can use it like a melee weapon, like a spear, or you could throw it and reel it back to you. But then there's that nice like risk reward of missing your target or even hitting your target, getting it stuck, and then having something else attack you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so much more
God
powerful
forbid,
if
pulling
you throw
your
it.
target that's far away close to you.
Yeah, that could be really cool. I almost want this in Bloodborne now.
Yeah, I would play the harpoon class for sure.
Anyways, that's enough time on that one. Let's come up with a name for this watery world that we've created.
Man, there's got to be something that we can do with the Should we do Deep Souls or something like that?
Let's see. We can keep the deep. We can do Deep Hurting, which is a reference back to Mystery Science Theater. There's probably better Deep Fear or
Deep Fear is good.
Deep Fear, okay.
Deep Fear is good, especially if you make underwater that feeling of just because there's so much water, everything that's down there has gotten so large and imposing and threatening.
Ooh, man.
Deep Fear is cool.
Cool. Well, Deep Fear, that is Spencer Saunders, Deep Fear. Anyways, that was a pitch from our community, as we regularly hear on every episode. We are just about out of those right now. So if you have an idea that you would love to have read, discussed, dissected, and workshopped on the show, then please do send it in to playwrightcast.com/pitch or email us at playwrightcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at playwrightcast.
Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, from the album Blue Noise. It's very good, and you can get to it from the About section of playwrightcast.com while you're leaving your pitch or whatever you like to do while you're there.
Well, Q, why don't you take us out of the show today with a miniature idea?
My miniature idea is actually from a very strange website I stumbled upon this past week that is a startup idea generator. And this is actually a perfect idea for a video game. It sounds very strange. Uber for babysitters.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.